Hello, guys. Welcome to the very first edition of my podcast where I just have conversations with friends and stuff. So, today with me, I've got a very good friend of mine, Bez, uh, or Bezalel, if you like. He's one of the most technically gifted people you can find around. And he's going to be talking with us about career stuff, how he developed his career and all those good stuff that he has to say. So, Bez, how are you doing?
Hi, Mr. Michael. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm great, man.
Um,
Good to
again,
hear from you.
yeah, same here. It's good to hear from you. I mean,
So,
it's been a long time coming.
yeah, it has been, right? Like, how many months now?
I think we spoke about this 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
We first spoke about this some 2-3 months ago, and here we are.
Okay, so without further ado, just can you introduce yourself to our
Oh
listeners?
yeah. So I am Bezalel, and uh, I am, for lack of a better way of describing what I do, I would just say I work in IT, since IT tends to cover quite a lot of, it's a broader scope. Um, so
So you're
I
like into all
can
the IT stuff or what?
I touch on a lot of different things because, okay, so my primary focus at the moment is business in IT, right? So that means I get to touch on a lot of different aspects of the information technology sphere. So my background is very highly technical, mostly hardware related. And when I say hardware, I'm not even talking within the IT spaces at first. So more in the engineering spaces. Um, I've been I've been working for what now? 13 years, I think,
Whoa,
on and off. Yeah. Um, so I
man,
started
and that's a really
very
long
early
time to
on.
work. How?
Exactly.
What? Okay, you say you have been working, but what's the career about? Like, you can't just be working without the career. Like, what's it
Yeah.
like?
So um, typically, when people talk about their careers, it's usually in kind of, it's sort of one direction, right? However, we're living in a world today where you start at one point, and then you later find yourself on a different career path altogether. So some people start in sales and advertising, for instance, as my sister did, and they end up in human resource. You get, and I know people who started in international relations but ended up in hospitality. So so it kind of people kind of veer up depending on their interest and, well, the direction to which the job takes them. So I started in a manufacturing industry in back in Nigeria. So a local fabrication company, and I was an intern for 2 years, and then I started working with them, and shortly after started traveling. But then I think a year or two later, I realized that, well, I've always known that I had a strong interest in computers and IT, and how the whole thing works. And because of my earliest exposure to computers from a younger age, I really wanted to explore the possibility of working in that industry. But and it helped that I had a number of people around me who were already doing it. So I think a year into my employment, I decided to um, sign up for a CCNA certification. For those of you who are not familiar with what a CCNA certification, it's a networking certification. So I signed up, I opted in for that. I took the classes, but I think 2 months into the program, I realized that I'd moved far ahead of the what we're being taught in class, because I had friends who were already working hands-on in the networking industry in Nigeria. So I joined them and we started working with them. And due to that exposure, it made me disinterested in the academic aspects of networking. So I dropped the program and I continued working in that industry for a while until I think 20 um I think 2011 or thereabout. So it was more of a balancing thing, right? Where I was still working in the same company, but more of a part-time basis, where I still handled the IT-based technical um, services, while still being able to take on freelance work. So that flexibility allowed me to explore my horizon. So, due to my vast interest in things, it's always been a little bit difficult to narrow down um, the scope of what I want to do and where I was headed to. And um, when you're thinking about what you want to achieve on a broader scope, as a Nigerian, a young Nigerian, and you cannot find the people you want to work with to build that thing, you're forced to put yourself in a situation where you have to learn all these individual things so you can create something new.
I mean,
So
you mentioned something there about having to sign up for a certification.
yeah,
What's prompted that? Did you get told by someone to go into the certification, or how did you know about all these things?
okay. So while I was working, I I think I was in a cyber cafe at the time, and a friend of mine was talking about earlier on in the year. He was in the university at the time, and he was talking about a job that was coming, and it was a networking job. And um, I was like, okay, networking. Now I'd heard about Cisco a while back, early on, and I knew what Cisco was all about, and so it got me interested, it got me curious. So I decided to do some research. So I started trying to figure out what's the entry level into those fields, because there was also the rage about the high paying IT jobs, and Cisco networking certifications was like the in thing. And I knew somebody who was a Cisco certified network professional, that's CCNP, and she was doing relatively well for herself at the time. So I figured, why not explore this? Because I love IT, and this doesn't force me into going through a 1 year program or 2 year or 4 year program in the university. This just I mean, the certification program is at your own pace, and then you write the exam, when you're ready and you get your certification, and it's globally recognized. So I figured, let's do this. So we have some certifications to flash around, and say, yes, we are certified engineers. You get.
Yeah, yeah, I get.
So in Nigeria, you need some kind of credentials to back up your knowledge every now and then. So
So I mean, so you're trying to say that school wasn't really important for you in trying to get the certification at all, like the certificates you got from school. How did it influence your career?
not by much, if any at all. Um, so shortly before I graduated high school, I knew I didn't want to go to college. I knew I didn't want to go to university. I knew at some level I wanted to go leave the country. I knew I wanted to leave Nigeria. But back then, academia was pretty much the only path that seemed easy enough to travel abroad for a young person. So you know, I was trying to figure out the best case scenario, but I couldn't come up with anything. And of course, to fulfill our righteousness, you go through all of the processes of writing all the exams that you need to apply to a university in Nigeria, apply to the universities and all of that. Well, I did all of that to fulfill our righteousness, not necessarily because I actually wanted to. And I secured an admission, but I never pursued it, because I had no interest in pursuing a university education at the time. And so I decided to look for an alternative that allowed me to learn at the pace at which I learn things, and also be able to apply that knowledge real time.
So you're saying that to you as a person, school doesn't just do it. Like I mean, the kind of learning that's done in school is just not the type that you like, right?
Yeah. I think being raised the way I was raised, I was. from an early stage, if you're raised the way I was raised, you already discover what you're very much interested in. Um, I knew what I was interested in from a young age, and I always had a passion for technology. Um, there were other things. I had a keen eye for art, but technology has always been my dream. So when I say technology, I just mean technology as a whole. So I dreamed of a Nigeria where the the infrastructure was so advanced to the point where everything is seamlessly integrated, from the IT industry to the manufacturing industry, the automobile, the production in terms of goods and services, and to the agriculture. Everything is seamlessly integrated. So from the raw material processing all the way to the end user, and all of these things are interwoven together. But I couldn't see education from an institutional standpoint giving me those results, because I already had people around me growing up who were engineers and mathematicians, and pretty much they all end up in academia, in a secondary school or in a university teaching. So I often wondered, why why do these people go through all of these processes only to end up being educators and nothing else? And then you immediately realize that there's only so much one can do when you live in a country that really doesn't prioritize um, industrialization,
Yeah.
and rather focuses on importation amongst other things. So um, it was a mind shift for me. And of course, you don't have such conversations with your peers at the time, because everybody wants to do it one way, until such a time that you feel like you're comfortable not not being not following the norm. So the norm, it was everybody was going to university amongst my peers, and I was the only person who was not in the university. So
That's exciting. I mean, the idea of having to have that kind of bringing up, or people around you to just like show you that this path is not really the most important path for you to follow. But talking about your career now, like what do you most enjoy, or what did you most enjoy when you started your career, or what do you still enjoy?
uh, okay, so I enjoy building things, right? Building things, from creating from the scratch, um, whether it's a machine or a design. So and of course these things are connected. In Nigeria, we just go straight to from sketches. We go from sketch to manufacturing, or to fabrication, right? That's if you're building a machine. So, for instance, if you were to build a food processing machine, right? Most times in Nigeria, we don't think about design processes, because you don't even have the time to go through the design process. We're dealing with customers who are eager to get these things done. They don't pay you well enough to actually spend the time. You have to spend months through research to design process to roll out a machine, and no one is going to pay you that much to get the job done. So basically what you focus on is keep bringing out the rough sketches and going straight to production. So I like seeing something, like building something from start to finish and seeing it come to life. But more importantly, when the people get to use it, I like to see that fulfillment, that satisfaction that um, they get from using something I create. So it doesn't really matter what it is. If I create whatever content I create, whatever product I create, I I like to see the expression on people's faces when they are satisfied with the product. So it's mostly always, I think the driving factor for me has always been create something that people are going to not just love, but it's going to create a lasting impact in their lives for time to come. So that has always been a driving force for me, amongst a few other things in my life.
Man, it's very exciting talking to you, Bez. And just one more question before we go. What advice would you give anyone who is trying to get into your type of career now? What advice would you give?
So currently, what I tend to describe myself at the moment is more of I think of myself more as a technology strategist, right? Because I can't really call myself a programmer, despite the fact that I have dabbled in that. I can't call myself a web developer or a designer, despite the fact that I do that. And I can't call myself an engineer either because it feels very reductive for me. Um, so the best, I think of myself as a business/technology strategist. I think that's maybe the simplest way to describe it because um, I try to look at tools that are being underutilized and then to take advantage of them so we can create something useful for people. So at this point in my life, I am taking a new career path, so to say. So whatever I'm talking about right now may not be something I get to do in the next 5 years. However, it's going to be a a catapult, so to say, that a slingshot that pushes me. It's like a means to an end. It's a very satisfying means to an end. So whatever I do right now, I'm enjoying it, but it's just a means to an end. So the end being able to build an ecosystem that allows for young people who've not had opportunities given to them in a more formal setting, young people who can come together and create. And yes, I care about the profits and
Yeah.
I care about the business aspect of things. So
Obviously.
the goal is not to just empower people for the sake of empowerment. I want to create a viable business out of these things that I am working on. So, for someone who is trying to start their life, this is typically a conversation I've had with some parents and who have asked me, what would I advise their child to do? This is what their child is interested in. Education is very important, but education is not synonymous to institutional education. It's not the same thing. You can educate yourself without being in a university, but there are benefits to being in a university. It provides structure and discipline to follow a particular program step by step, right? But it isn't for everybody. People like me have struggled with this for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Being able to follow that step by step process has been a challenge for people like me. So some people are not wired for this. If I was talking to a parent, I would say identify what your child is, who your child is from an early stage, and try to understand where, to direct them because they heavily depend on you. A lot of kids who graduate EMU don't even know why they came to EMU to study what they studied
Yeah.
because their
Yeah.
parents told them to do it. You get
Yeah.
so. Um, I would say recognize what your child is good at and direct them so they can make the right decisions. Also, if you don't have to, don't waste thousands of dollars or thousands of naira trying to send your child to the university. Instead, invest in whatever tools and infrastructure that that child needs to develop them. So you need adequate internet. You need books so the child encourage them to learn how to read, to read on a vast scale. Business books, finance books, technology books, because everything is technology is interwoven into everything. If I am a child and I want to learn how to make shoes, right? I want to be a shoemaker, right? Technology could be a driving force to those things. So if I have a computer, I learn how to design. I can design my shoes on a computer before I make them, which means that I would reduce the levels of error that comes into just starting from the material itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So so I would encourage every parent to not have to force your child into going to the university because you think it will be the open door for him. Not every child needs to be in a university. Every child needs to be educated, and every child needs to love reading because reading is important. That's how knowledge is important, and so
Yeah.
you want to encourage your children to love learning
Yeah.
as not to love school, to love learning because they are not the same thing. Yes, it could be that the learning process would happen in a school, and that's great. But for some people, that learning process happens when they're not in the same environment with everybody else,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I
So
understand. I understand.
encourage the child to do that is what I would say to anybody who is trying to find themselves.
I mean, so if the person is not a parent, you should just know that, look, you have to recognize what you're good at and go with it. You also have to make sure, I mean, get books, read books.
Yeah,
The internet is there. There's lots of information out there. That's the only thing that you'll be used to like grow. And also
Sure.
the last one that you said about having to love learning. Like people don't really know the difference between learning and school, and that's one of the issues that we're facing today. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think it's been nice chatting with you, and I know that you're also a finance expert, and we'll probably get you back on this show so that you can talk more on finance. So, do you have any
It's
closing
been good talking
remarks?
to you too.
What?
I said it's been good talking to you too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you have any closing remarks or your social media or contact that people can reach out to you?
For now, I'm not. So one of the thing that, so I guess I would say this as a closing remark.
Yeah,
We live in a year, in a day and age where social media plays more in terms of distraction than it does, as than it is helpful for young people, in most instances. So try to learn how to manage that distraction. I don't have active social media. I have a social media account, but it's useless because even if you go there, you there's no content, so there's no point giving it out.
yeah,
So
yeah. So,
um,
all right.
I am more of a passive social media user. So learn how to manage your time, learn how to filter out distractions, and it will go a long way for you.
All right. I guess that's it.
Yeah. Good talking to you, Michael.